Well, hello, I'm alone in Finland. This is EVE Online. It is the winter Nexus, so it is the seasonal greetings time of EVE Online. So, first things first, I'm going to talk about some of the winter Nexus stuff to begin, but to begin with, I'm actually going to do a little bit of station keeping, public service announcement, etc, 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 because it was something that I noticed that came up the other day that is just a bit weird. But we'll start that with the gift of little things. So as you can see, EVE has put out a patch that is... I don't know if this has come from the CSM. I didn't bother to look into it. I should have, but time and yeah, it's the seasonal time. If you've got kids, you understand how hectic it gets. If you don't have kids, don't have kids. Jesus, it gets so hectic. However... as you can see here, it says, we have a few new updates coming today, which was a few days ago. You can now add the option to allow second fleet in your column, watch list, you can restore watch list, simulate from clipboard. And this actually makes it look a lot more null blocky. But there is a lot of stuff in here. Go and have a look at it. There is basically, it looks like, to me it looks like the CSM has gone, here's our bitch list. Could you fix this, update this, make these things easier? Or... basically, the other way around would be that CCP's just been collecting this bitch list and have managed to implement it so that people's gripes are being listened to, and it's a good thing. It's a fantastic thing. Now, with that being said, here's a curiosity. I'll put it as a curiosity. So, I just want to point out there's a little bit of discrepancy in here, because if we have a look here, if we have a look at the level 1 mastery pack, the level 1 mastery pack here costs €10 and it will get you 15 days Omega and a Genius Boost Accelerator. If we have a look here, it's 7 days Omega and 250,000 skill points and the Cerebral Boost, the Genius Boost Accelerator. So you get less game time. And while it's adjusted slightly in price, it's still... curious. It's a weird thing for them to do, because the sort of €10, you're usually looking at €20 for a month without discount at the moment. But when you actually have a look at the pricing here, it is cheaper, but you're getting a lot less for it. Whereas the 325 is again cheaper than the sort of level 2 mastery packs, but the level 2 mastery packs come with Plex, which explains why they can sort of cheapen it down. So in this, you're basically getting the skill points, the Plex for free, and you're paying for a month's Omega. In this, you're getting the skill points and boosters, the same as the other one. You're not getting any Plex, because why pay Plex for Plex, but you're also getting half the time. So you get 14 days instead of 30, which seems weird. I don't understand why that's a thing. If we have a look at the level 4, I'm just going to bring up Marquee Dragon because it's a little bit easier for me to see. I don't know why, it just seems like a better layout. But level 4 here, you've got 3 months Omega, 1,000 Plex, obviously. It's got the Plex sort of deal when you're paying for it. But here, we've got 2 MCTs, a skill extractor, and then 90 days. So that's the same. It's just the level 1 and level 2 that vary in the amount of time that they're given. So, something to be aware of. Those lower end ones are a bit cheaper, but you don't get... they're not the same amount of time that you're getting with them. I understand there's going to be differences because of Plex, that makes sense. But... the difference in time of those first two were just a weird thing for me. So I just wanted to put that out there so that people have seen it and they know that these two are slightly different. The what do you call it? The level 1 seems alright for 150 Plex. But at the same time, the level 2 starts to creep up and things like this, and it gets weird. So I just wanted to make sure people were aware of those things, because somebody had mentioned about paying for stuff online and they had seen this. So with that all being said, we have the Winter Nexus. Now, as you can see here, I've gone with a weird strategy for this at the moment. I didn't realise that the Winter Nexus, because I haven't really dealt with it in the past few years, I didn't realise that it was actually going against Sancha. So I picked this ship because the previous big events that I've done, I've always used a Macario. And the reason I went for the Nightmare this time was purely because I thought I can get more cargo space if I'm just using crystals. So that's literally why I traded it up. You are moving around, you can be moving around an awful lot between sites and things like this. So that's why I fitted this up, so that I've got a battleship. For those of you that don't know, you can't get marauders into the sites, it's battleships only. So your faction battleships are the best option to use. And then a lot of these sites in the past have required moving. And this is true of the mining sites as well. You need to move at high speed to get to stuff sort of quickly. There is mining sites, as you can see here on the Winter Nexus on the left hand side. We've got the Whitestrom NPCs destroyed, exploration sites entered, so you can scan down exploration sites, units of ice mined, which is the mining sites. The water sucker I have no idea about, and I do not know what a relay is to hit one with a snowball, so I'm kind of stuck at that. I think it might be one of the hacking things. I might have a look at that later on. But for the moment, I have just basically done the ice stuff with my side character, and with my main character, I have been running through the sites. The ice mining does not get you anywhere near the same amount of loot. You mine ice that you turn in 4 little packages, and then you redeem the packages in a little sort of loot box, because nobody has a problem with those. And you redeem the loot box and get some stuff. I went through, I think I redeemed, it was just shy of 30. I think it was 27. But in total, from all of them, I got about 12 million worth of loot, not including, because they're not rated on the market, these little things, of which I got about 20 million's worth. These little tickets are being accepted by Concord places, so you can turn them in. So for however many you've got, you'll get that many million. If you sell them at the right place, don't sell them to these nuggets. But you will get some coin off of that. Aside from that, if we actually look at my cargo hold, this is, for me, 2 days of casual running, so you could blitz it in a day if you really wanted to. And if we just go through and highlight the stuff that I didn't get, so that's part of my fit. The mobile pack runner and the spare drones, the scanner probes, the script, and all my T2 ammo. So if I take all of that out, it says we have 112 million from running the sites for 2 days, or a day if you were blitzing it. It was very casual. I was a lot of the time getting distracted, and I think I was running about 6 hours a day. So you could run this in a weekend if you were that way inclined, because, well, let's be honest, it's EVE Online. A lot of us are that way inclined. At the same time, if you were to run this with a Macario, you don't need distance. You don't need to be moving. You just need the ability to deflect from a little bit of E-War, so that's why I've got a cap battery in there, and a decent sort of cap charge rate. This is one of my old fittings from the Nightmare from years ago, so it hasn't accounted for any updates, and as you can see here, I'm actually like massively underpowered. I could fit a lot more, but I am running, well, that part of that would be the fact that I'm running Sancha Mega Pulse. If you are not aware of this, because this change happened at some point, and I don't remember where, a lot, I don't know if it's all, but a lot of the faction warfare guns can now use T2 crystals. I didn't know that. It's changed at some point in my little gaps. And I just wasn't aware of it. So I have not been using faction weapons, even though they've got higher stats than T2 for a lot of things, purely because I didn't think they could run T2 crystals, and I thought the effect balanced itself out. It turns out that's nonsense. You can run T2 crystals in faction guns now. So that's a big one for me, because that was the entire reason I avoided it. And I have a sneaking suspicion that's the reason that faction guns are still so much cheaper than they should be, because they really do have a hit. For this, the reason I was actually running with these is they've got slightly better tracking, which has been very helpful in this. You are going to need to track things. You're going to be hitting small frigates. Let's go out and show one of the missions. But that's been the biggest problem that I've had, is I have to move around the battlefield to make sure that I can hit the small frigates and apply damage. As you can see from that fitting, I can kick out, well, I think it's, what, 1100 DPS? Something daft like that. But actually applying it on target when they're small and fast moving, 1300. I am a high skill character. I'm not fully skilled in lasers. Actually, I might be fully skilled in lasers. I am not sure. I know I started to train them up with a paladin, but in general, I've got a very high skill level, so that's why I'm sort of hitting above average. But at the same time, where are we going? Let's have a look here. I'm going to pick one of these. So again, you're wanting a battleship, you're wanting to tank. The ability, you want us to tank against E-War as well as damage incoming, normal damage incoming. And remember that the entities that you're coming up against are going to be locking you down. Some of them scramble, some of them web, some of them just warp disrupt. So it's sort of worth doing it. That's where this battleship actually has its advantages, because the boosts are to the afterburner, so you can move around the battlefield fairly quickly. Now, the reason that it's not really needed for the actual sites, let me just check if anybody's in this. No, there isn't. As you can see there, I have sort of dropped my I'm just not working today when it comes to brain. I've dropped the directional scanner down to 1 AU and then manually rolled it down to 4.4 AU, because that's close enough to just be this site without interfering with other sites around about. So on the gate I can scan and see if anybody's in it. There are a lot of people coming in and doing can flipping and trying to pick fights. In the area that I'm in at the moment, sort of around Avalon, that was actually mainly one guy who was just trying to get fights and get people to sort of take the loot back. But the guy was so awful at it that when he brought in a second ship, it took so long that the people managed to escape. So that was just sort of pathetic. But it is happening, and it is targeting inexperienced players. Because, let's be honest, if somebody was trying to gank in that fashion, they couldn't do it against an experienced player, and they wouldn't be doing it in general. So it is a little bit daft, but be warned for that. With all of the extra stuff going on, we also have the ability here. For me, I'm just approaching so that I sort of level out my stuff. These entities are actually going after drones as well, so kicking out drones. As you can see, mine have had a little bit of a problem. I think I've lost about 6 drones in total, and where I'm flying doesn't really have much in the way of spare drones. Although, if you are somebody that is industry inclined, going to these systems and dropping off a whole load of spares would be something that would be useful, especially when it comes to drones. So you can make a little bit of profit there if you're looking at it. But in general, there is a few things to be done. I'll just get these NPCs out of the way. I think I get 10 points for this, which might actually complete the whole thing. But you have your initial spawn, and then you have, as you can see here, I'm actually being muted, but I'm so cap stable, there's no issues with it. Then, after your initial spawn, you have the battleship spawn. Hits a little bit harder. It's slightly worrying if you are lower skill level. The Praxis is a particularly good ship for doing this. I have seen a lot of ships, a lot of Praxis that are sort of running through and having no problems. And in general, don't be one of those people that comes into a site that somebody else is completing and then starts raking through their stuff to mess up their routine, because that's just shitty. There we go, I've managed to get the last one, so I have a Perseverance Blueprint crate. So we have a shiny crate, you redeem it from here, then it goes into these items and you can pop it into whichever station you happen to be looking at. So let me just get this finished off, kill the last one, and then I'm actually going to head for a Concord station and get rid of this stuff, because I'm carrying a lot of stuff. Where's the closest Concord? 8 jumps away. I'm going to toss the drones out and kill this last one. I've been worried about the drones just because that one took a lot of smack the other day. Stop my ship. Let it track better. Stop being a div. There are various amounts of entities when you come in for the first wave. Sometimes it can be as low as 2 that I've noticed. Maybe it could be 1, I'm not sure. But in some cases I've had it be upwards of, or around about 10. I think 9 or 10 is the highest I've had, and it has been a case of you're gonna have to start killing these quickly. Also, before this second battleship warps in, make sure you pull your drones, because it has a habit of insta-popping drones the second it sort of lands on grid, spawns on grid, however you wish to put it. And then it's got that hyper kick where it starts really moving fast. We're gonna get nice and close. Grab it. Oh, I've lost a crystal. Shows you how much I've been doing. By the way, all these other faction crystals I've got, they were all dropped from this. So the large radios, the microwaves. I got an absolute ton of... What were the other ones? The large multis. Imperial Navy multis. Oh no, they must... No, yeah. Imperial Navy ones have come from this as well. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe I put them in, maybe I don't. I don't remember putting them in. But I have got a lot of crystals that have dropped from this in general, which has been nice. So those are worth a little bit of money. Oh, not too much these days. But something that you can do. And then we also get a lot of these storm filaments, so you can jump around the place. These have an expiration date on them, I do believe. If we have a look in attributes. Oh, it doesn't say that they do. Interesting. There we go, we managed to kill it without having to pulse the shield booster. Always nice. And some of the random loot. More Sanchez crystals. And then we claim another reward. Here's my question. Is this going to start rerunning? Nope. Once it's done, it's done. So I've got extra stuff, but once you are completed, you get your perseverance. At the moment, the perseverance seems to be fairly expensive, but I am just going to head back up to Jita and have a look there. At any other time, I would advise going to different trade hubs and having a look at the different trade hubs, because of the fact that you should be the best way to make some profit, especially if you're a trader, or an inventor or manufacturer. Make your stuff wherever you want to. Make it away from Caldari space. But then when you go to the local trade hubs, have a look at one of your online market tools on the actual internet, and then take the Jita prices and list your stuff for the Jita prices, because more people will move towards you, or people might be more inclined to buy your stuff locally as opposed to trekking all the way up to Jita and getting the best prices for it. There's a lot of people that have that price mentality and sort of don't realise I am wasting time to go to Jita to buy the cheapest thing by like 100 mil cheaper for a battleship fittering, or a what do you call it? I've forgotten the name of it now. A marauder fitting. And then they'll trek that marauder all the way back, sort of forgetting that they're going to spend several hours or an hour or two on the travel, and it's sort of time-wise, it's worth just buying it locally. So if you are one of those traders, try and use the other stuff. For me personally, when I started the game back in the day, and I know this is the old person going, yeah, well, in my day, I started next to Ren's, and Ren's was jumping at the time. Riddenjorn was my first system when I spawned in back in 2005, and it was fantastic. It was a big community, a very friendly and open gaming community, which doesn't sort of resemble EVE these days. I got pulled into a lot of corporate stuff very quickly, which was quite cool, to be honest. But part of it was because we had these other trade hubs that were doing as much money, if not more, in some respects, than Jita. Not in constant trade, but like certain things. So, for instance, if you wanted anything that was Minmatar based tech and you were down in Minmatar space, that's where you would get it cheaper because that's where it was being manufactured, etc. Especially going for the sort of Tech 2 variants. But that's my sort of pro tip. Heck is one of the best systems for trade, in my opinion, especially for low level new bros. Because if you're building small destroyers, frigates, things like that next to Heck, it goes right into faction warfare. So it's getting cycled into faction warfare fairly fast. Whereas, because it's only 2 jumps out from faction warfare systems. Whereas if you're looking at Jita's actually like 6 or 7 jumps out from faction warfare. I think 5 jumps from Tama, which is your main sort of drop in for FW. Deltol's a little bit closer to the Galante area, so these are places where if you're making that stuff, definitely worth doing it. It is something that can actually make you a bit more money if you're that way inclined. But yes, let's do the time skip and get to Jita while I shove chocolate in my face, because there is also a deal in Co-Group in Finland, that would be the shops, that has reduced a whole load of the big chocolate bars down to prices that are cheaper than small chocolate bars. So this is going to be a difficult Christmas to deal with because of the possibility of the fruit and nut chocolate. For those of you that don't know, that's the main way that Scots people get their fruit, which is the running stereotype. But yes, chocolate time. Right, so we're in Jita, we're heading into Jita 4.4, and I've just actually gone through scanning some of these filaments. So as you can see here, somebody's buying these for $500,000. Some of the other ones are 100 and something thousand. Some of them are very cheap, sort of 13,000 and not much. Now, I'm going to be bouncing about through nullsec and things like this, and these are a good way to do it for me at the moment. So I'm not going to sell off all of these, but because I'm not going to any specific area or systems, I am actually going to sell off the more expensive ones. And I'm going to sell it into the buy orders specifically because there isn't much market in the sell orders when people can generate these. That's a good example would be this one here, where they're sort of buying for 30,000, but they're selling for 100,000. If we actually look at the price history, you'll see that most people are sort of selling at 50, or the average is around about 54,000. So they aren't selling for the high numbers, which means that these orders are just a waste of money placing the thing. Whereas if people are buying stuff, then that's something that you can sort of work with. So I'm going to toss a few of these into sales and stuff like this. Let's actually check the price, because heading out to the market is 12 jumps for here, but they're buying at 926. So I sacrifice a little bit, which is exactly what I was talking about before. I'd sacrifice a little bit of my profit, but it'd save me jumping out 12 jumps to go and sell these and then bring them all the way back. So I might as well sell them here and get them out of the way. One of the tricks I actually do for this is to open the item hanger, scroll to the bottom, and then there's just been an absolute crash behind me as my freezer is defrosting. Sorry if you heard that. But then the stuff that I'm going to sell, I'm going to drag across here and it'll sit at the bottom before anything else. So as long as I don't refresh this right hand window, I'll be able to put this stuff up for sale. And it shouldn't be too many problems. There you go, a whole load of brain free stuff. So that stuff's going to be sold. So for 2 days just sort of grinding through this, I have ended up with, actually let's just, I'm going to put that back for a second. Let's just watch this one first. Unclaimed items, where's me pack? Here it is, the Perseverance pack, redeemed current station. Now I'm personally not going to sell this. Oh bollocks, I actually have to build it. Open container. So it is in here, and I can have a look down, use blueprint. What would it skin me? Oh, Need to deliver my shuttles. So the actual cost of it is 6 million, which is in line with the destroyers. However, at the moment on the market, these are going for... Holy shit! These are... Oh, God, that's a lot of money. So these are going for 320 million. And I imagine that price history is crashing rapidly. So if you want to get them sold, then do it. However, be warned. I can do this because I've got a second character that I can run this with again, but honestly, that grind was kind of painful. But after Christmas, these are not going to be a thing anymore, and that price is going to start jumping. So, in what's our login campaign today? Daily logins, we have got 30 days remaining. So after 30 days, this event is closed and that price will start to jump. At the moment, you could sell high in the beginning and sort of buy lower towards the end. Possibly not an accountant or any of that market nonsense. But be aware of that. You could sell it just now and make some money, but at the end of the time, it is going to jump phenomenally, as it always does. That was something with the consortium stuff as well. The consortium tractor beam units were originally selling for about 50 to 100 million. And they were sort of dropping. They started about 200 million. And over the course of about a week and a half, they dropped all the way down to about 100 million. And then within a month of it closing, they had rocketed up to nearly $1 billion to buy one of the tractor beam units. And they've stuck there ever since because they are such an expensive or such a niche item, you can't really get them anymore. Which is also something that happened with gecko drones and things like this. You can still get gecko drones from drops, but they are very rare. So they are very expensive. So be warned of all of that stuff. It sounds like a waterfall behind me of crashing ice. But yeah, so I'm going to get my Perseverance built. And I'm going to keep it because I'm a ship collector. So that's... I like me shinies. For those of you that are unaware, we went through this last time. But you've got a bonus to ice harvesting range. You've got a bonus to ice harvesting modular critical hit chance. And critical hit yield. Which is interesting, because I wonder if that means that you can get like a double hit on some of the ice stuff. It can fit ice mining lasers and 100% bonus to ice module critical hit chance again from the roll bonus. So this on paper doesn't mine as well as some of the other things. However, it does actually mine quite well because it gets all of these bonuses that the exhumers don't get. So it's a good intermediate ship. It looks on paper like it's alpha, but it's not. It's omega. Omega only. That's something to bring up because I can't remember what skill it is. Something in the skill requirements. Is it this? Let me have a look. But something in the skill requirements is omega. Where am I looking? Skills. Mining 4, maybe? Resource processing, production. I can't see it because I'm not in alpha. It's not easy to see, but something along here. I am genuinely not sure, but somebody flagged it the other day. And yeah, so you should have a spy at this because something in the requirements for something about it is not alpha compatible. So if you're on an alpha account and you don't intend on ever going omega, first off, well, thanks for not supporting the game. But at the same time, if you are that kind of person, then that's a ship that you might want to sell because you'll get a good amount of coin for it. But yes, this is where we are at. This is the winter update. This is what's going on with it. As I said before, if you're running this with a battleship, if you're fitting out of a battleship, speed is not that important. However, with the amount of people that are crashing the party and trying to get ganks and things like this, you might want the speed to be able to loot the wrecks, because that's been the one sort of advantage of running the Nightmare. And for me, I'm very happy with this in a weird way, because I used to run the Nightmare back in the day. I'm talking over 15 years ago. It was my main battleship for a long time, just because I thought it looked cool and because it has that sort of Jovian inspired side to it. And I've not run a Nightmare. I've built a couple in the past little while, but I haven't actually sort of even just gone into one. I haven't assembled one in ages. So although I threw this together because I had a bit of coin after making the Barbarogas and the Odyssei, I have no idea. But yeah, after making a whole load of Tech 2 stuff, I had a bit of extra coin kicking about, and I was like, you know what, let's do something fun. And now I'm not getting rid of this. I am going to change it slightly. I'm going to make it a little bit heavier tank. Because I do want an extender in there. I prefer having a bit more of a buffer, because 56,000 EHP is not something I'm comfortable with this. Also, I would, in normal... I cannot speak today. I need more energy poison. Yeah, because of the way that I normally run with shield boost and fists... Oh God, I am so sorry. I'm not re-recording this. I am too tired to go through all this blather again. But because of the way that I normally run when I'm running shield boost fits in a battleship, I'm normally running crystal implants. I've got 2 clones that are set up for crystal implants, as well as 2 clones that are set up for armor. I can't even remember what armor. It's not the slave implants, because that's more armor. It's the character augments, jump clones. Well, these ones, this is low. Askleplan. That's the one. So that gives you more repair amount. So it's the armor equivalent to the crystal implants, where crystals give you more boost as opposed to just more shield. And that's what I usually run with. I've got a set of low grade in the armor one, and then the Galanti one runs a bit higher. And they're sort of geared around the ships that they're usually run with. Although the other day I took a jump out to Nullsec space in one of my Barbarogas with a high grade Askaplan set, and it was only once I was out there I realised that I was running a pod that was worth more than the ship, and I kind of shat myself and decided to come back very quickly, because I was not out there for PvP, so that was definitely an interesting time. But yes, this is the winter stuff. It's a bit of a grind. It's some interesting stuff. What they've done with the visuals, I think, is getting very good. I'm quite liking that, I have to say. And personally, because I am more sort of non-PvP focused, I wouldn't say I would say that any of the the null kittens would say that anybody that resides mostly in high sex is a Care Bear, which is fair play, I suppose. And in my opinion, a little bit ironic, because if you really wanted a lack of safety, you'd be in wormhole space. But I sort of dart between everything. I don't have much experience in the wormhole space, but I spend a surprising amount of time going into null with my various characters and doing various different things. So that is something that is, these little filaments are going to be quite useful for me, because I can jump out and have a look at some of the systems. But because of the combat around about them, it's not something I would be jumping out to do this specific event, because there's going to be lots of people sort of in the area, and if you're not blue to one of the alliances, you are going to be a fireball in no time at all. So bear that in mind, but at the same time, go and have a look around about. There are some sites and things like this I'm going to have a little spy about soon. So, with all that, as per usual, code alone in Finland if you're on Dragon Market. It'll save you a bit of money if you're in the EU. It'll save you a bit of money if you're in the US, because you get 5% discount. I get a little bit of a kickback to keep the lights on here. And at the same time, we have the standard skill points. If you're somebody that hasn't played EVE Online before, there is a link down in the doobly-doo that will get you 1,000,000 free skill points if you start up a new character. If you ever happen to go to Omega or something like this, it gives me a little bit of a kickback. And that kickback is in the form of, if I get, I think it's like 10 more people or something like this, then I'll get a free Marshall battleship out of it. So if you're starting up a new account, please use that. If you're starting multiple accounts, use your own. So you can start up one account and use mine, and then, or somebody else's, another creator that you support. But then also, if you were to make more than one account, if you are that way inclined, you could then use a code from your first account to start up your second or your third or your fourth or your fifth, etc. And if you were ever to put any money into those other accounts, you would give yourself a kickback. So that being in mind. However, because this keeps coming up, you don't need the multi-box to play the game. The vast majority of the time that I play the game, I play with a single client on. The reason that I have two clients, well, the reason I have more than two clients, and most people have seen them all, is because back in the day I had a lot of characters in Cap Swarm, and I needed the ability to put out Sino alts. So one account would have 3 Sino alts on it. They didn't even have high skilled characters. And then once that got to Omega, to Omega versus Alpha accounts, I didn't really keep them up, and a lot of the characters actually got sold off. I'm still regretting 2 of them because they were very high skilled. But that's why I have my main and my secondary. That my secondary gets kept in Omega a good chunk of the time, especially when there's mining and things to be done, because having 2 mining characters is quite an advantage. So that's the reason for that. But the vast majority of stuff that I do on EVE, I don't use a second character. And to be perfectly honest, aside from using them as a scout, if you're going through nullsec, it's not really worth it. In general, you can sort of manage without, and if you're living in low sec sort of permanently, you'll know where you can jump into and where you can't. So run with a single character until you're comfortable with the game, and then decide whether you need a second one for what you're doing. But remember that when you are working with multiple characters, you are sort of expanding your focus. So the amount of attention that you put into the game is doubled for every character. And that doesn't mean that one character is 1 attention, 2 characters is 2 attention, and 3 characters is 3 attention. That means that 1 is 1, 2 is 2, and 3 characters becomes 4 attention. 4 characters then becomes 8 attention, because you are constantly switching focus between everything you're doing. So that's why nowadays it's a mining alt. In the old days it was a Sino alt, because they would just need to undock, warp to a particular place, pop the Sino, and then my carriers would move into that space and then move out of that space. It was very useful, and part of the reason it was started was when I was actually coming out of the CFC, I set up a chain so that I could get all of my heavy gear out of nullsec space very quickly, because the corporation that I was in changed leaderships. One of the guys literally retired out of existence, and the person that sort of took it over was really power hungry, and it didn't work well. So a lot of us very quickly disappeared out, and we needed a fair few Sinos to do that because of the situation that it was in. But that's not something that most people will come across, and most people won't deal with capital ships in general. I have 2 actually, that are still sitting there, and they are just covered in dust. By the way, that would be a really funny thing, a funny mechanic for CCP to put in, is that if you haven't used a ship in a while, instead of just the dirt that you get from outside, have like a greying dust if you haven't used it. So you get to clean it off, or it gets burned off in combat, something stupid like that. But yeah, so that's the situation as is. One last thing I am going to check before I say goodbye is having a look in the contracts. Find in contracts. 380 million. So these are sort of dictating the price. And here is a whole load of people that don't understand that Tech 2 doesn't work. By the way, I am aware that there are new people in the thing. Tech 2 does not. You can't put buy orders up for contracts. So bear that in mind. When you are putting this up, it will not be able to be answered, so you're just sort of wasting a bit of money there, and you're not going to grab any attention or stuff like this. You can see people are throwing perseverances up for 3 billion, 4 billion. Those are just sort of wasted money now, because as the price drops, the what do you call it? The contract price, or what people are willing to pay, will not be there. So bear that in mind. Now is the time, seize the day, all of that jazz. Carpe scrotus, as they say. Bye!